Dear viewers, welcome to the weekly roundup. The gaming shows are over, so expect recaps and a ton of news. Thanks for joining another episode. If you enjoyed this, subscribe. Let's dive in. Starting with reveals and announcements. More accurately, starting with where we left off last week, a gaming show. Up first, the PC gaming show with some interesting titles. How about Tactical Breach Wizards, a puzzle tactics game where you lead a team of witches and wizards in Kevlar, unraveling a modern geopolitical conspiracy by combining your spells in clever ways, dealing with your emotional problems and knocking people through windows. This is made by Suspicious Developments, and I know these guys since 2013 when they made Gunpoint. That game was truly brilliant. It was a tactical puzzle game as well, so I have high hopes for this one. There's no release date yet. Flintlock in their first cinematic trailer made it very clear this was a game to be reckoned with. The attention to detail in that thing alone made me realize this had to be good because it was so well made. Now we can see some actual gameplay, and while it is of course still a trailer, it looks absolutely gorgeous, fluid and visceral. I can't wait to play this. It's coming to Game Pass too, and early 2023 is the release window so far. This is one of my most anticipated games for next year. Also quite interesting, mainly because of its take on the cyberpunk world, is Nivalis, which is a restaurant sim game set in a cyberpunk world. You can build your own restaurant, grow your own food, fish at the docks, meet people, strike deals, improve your downtown apartment and live other people's experiences. The devs are creating a very unique concept here by mashing together cyberpunk style, which are typically platformers or action games, and the simulation genre. There's no release date yet, but wishlist it if you want. The game I talked about last week, Stormgate, the new RTS by ex-Blizzard devs working on StarCraft 2, revealed a lot more information and even a snippet of gameplay. The game is quite far out, but a few key things were announced. The game will have co-op campaign mode, for example, but another big focus is competitive play from the client itself. This means you will be able to sign up for esports tournaments via the game itself and probably play qualifiers and things like that. Integrating the competitive element into the actual game could work out very well, and I can see also a form of monetization there. More interestingly, modding will be a thing, with a custom editor being released into the wild at some point, so the modding community can go ham. This is something that Blizzard refused to do lately, just like Bethesda, but I'm glad to see Stormgate going back to their roots and adding this into the game. The more I hear about this, the more excited I'm getting. Another RTS game that caught my attention is Laysara Summit Kingdom. This Eastern-inspired builder lets you build your bases and farms on a mountain, and it just looks amazing, honestly. I'm sure connecting all the different parts of the mountain will be a challenge in itself, but it also seems like a lot of fun, and I enjoy the art style and the way it all looks. And in an RTS game, those moments where you look at what you have built so far and marvel at the new developments, those are the highlights of a game like that for me. It is important, and I think it's well done here. The game releases Q1 2023. Frozen Flame released a new trailer. This fantasy open-world survival RPG has been on my radar for a few years now, and this footage shows why, hopefully. While it doesn't run all that well yet and frame rate is far from optimal, I feel aesthetically this is awesome. I love the world they've created, and in the fall of this year we can start our own quests and adventures when the game launches into early access. Alaloth, Champions of the Four Kingdoms, announced their early access launch. This game was supposed to launch 4 years ago, and now it will finally happen in early access on June 30th. Reason for EA is that they still want the help of the very loyal community around their game with balancing and polishing. You should expect a fairly finished game for a reasonable price, but the devs want to take some additional feedback and then release the full game. I think that after all the hardships, that is a very viable approach to take. They clearly got their eyes set on the horizon, searching for long-term success, and I hope for the best here. 11-Bit Studios, both developer and publisher, is about to create and publish a new game, The Altars. Very interesting game, set in the future where a massive spacecraft seems to be roaming an alien planet. It reminded me a lot of the movie Moon. Inside of that massive craft lives Jan, but he is bored and he needs to survive and eventually get back home, so he decides to create alternative versions of himself, the Altars. Intriguing concept, and you would expect nothing less from the creators of Frostpunk and This War of Mine. It's been a while since I reported on Salt 2, but I never lost eye on the treasure that this indie game is. In this indie swashbuckling pirate game you can travel the open world to various islands and alpha testing is almost upon us. All this news is courtesy of a dev blog which also states that a lot more features will be in the game. For example, maps, which you need to map out yourself as a cartographer using a sextant. There will be 2 guilds you can join in the game, the Sea Scholars Guild and the Marauders Guild, basically the Mages and Fighter Guild. The devs lately put a lot of work in their sound design, creating different atmospheres during day and nighttime. Additionally, to help with that, there have been lighting and sunset changes, creating quite nice and romantic pictures, until a skeleton comes and stabs you in the back, that is. As survival is a big part of the game, there will be a hunger system. Player level exists and increasing your levels unlocks higher world tiers and better loot. Expect more island types, which are effectively biomes. There's a new autumn-inspired island biome, for example, called Battle Master. World bosses make their appearance, which is cool. New wildlife, like this boar, is there as well. And finally, more points of interest for you to discover. And you know what a game is that we haven't really heard much about for a while? Killsquad, the co-op action-packed top-down twin-stick shooter by indie studio Novorama. Great game, but now that it's been released, what's up next? Well, the devs released a statement on the future of the game and it turns out they're going to support crossplay between the PlayStation version and the PC version. The issue is, the PlayStation version isn't out yet, and until that happens, they don't want to tamper too much with the PC version because in order for crossplay to work, the PC and PlayStation version should be mostly identical. That makes perfect sense to me. The PC master race therefore will have to wait for a bit until both versions are released and in sync, but after that we will get more improvements and, more importantly, more Sony ponies to play with, so those juicy co-op sessions can continue. Action game Soulstice, a tale around 2 sisters bound together fighting hordes of bad guys, has a release date, September 20th. This is a game I've been following for a while. It has souls in the title, but it isn't really a Souls-like game. It is much more an action hack and slash game with some interesting mechanics because your little sister is a spectral being with spectral powers which you can use to defeat monsters. And the other half is basically the hack and slashing component, wielding weapons and killing everybody. It adds a layer and some strategy to the combat. The cel-shaded look is something you don't see much either in this genre, and overall this is a game that caught my attention by having flashy trailers. Now that there's gameplay to complement those flashy trailers, which you're looking at right now, I feel this could really be a decent game, so wishlist it if you want. Then, teaser time, some rapid fire very short clips and info. Here is Ugly, which really isn't that ugly, a puzzle game platformer where your mirror image helps you traverse the levels and defeat the bosses. Then, Erebon, a stealth action game where you need to stay in the shadows to evade your foes and their corrupted light. A little bit like the game we covered last week, Schim. Or solo dev project Falling Frontier, a space RTS bringing a new trailer, showing tons of destruction, although the game still isn't out yet. And Bramble the Mountain King, bringing us a new creature, the Necken, in this grim folklore-inspired adventure game from Dim Frost Studios. Farthest Frontier, the city builder from the creators of Grim Dawn, now has a release date for early access. It's August 9th. Count me in, I really can't wait to play this, it's going to be a ton of fun. Proceeding with the Patch Plaza, I'm bringing an overview of patch news. The card-induced ARPG Liberté, where you fight in the French Revolution using cards and a crafted deck, releases update 5. In this early access title, you now have an Endless Bliss mode. Bliss is comparable to Corruption in PoE, for example, or Empowered Timelines in Last Epoch, and here you pick curses that function as debuffs, making your gameplay harder. The endless mode of this is, well, endless. In each endless level, you have 5 minutes to kill the shade that resides within and its minions. If you succeed, you unlock a higher difficulty level. Pretty simple, could be fun. I might return to this game one day and check it out once more, now that it's been baking in the oven for a while, like a fine baguette. Colony Ship, a game based on a sci-fi book about a colony ship departing from Earth, seeking greener pastures or planets, released a big update, the Habitat. It had a delay of 3 months, meaning that other planned content is a bit delayed too, but it's also good news because it is a milestone and now 60% of the game is done. This is still in early access, I covered this way before it came out, and I'm glad to see it's still going strong. Feedback has been positive, gamers currently rate the game with an 85% user rating on Steam. Black Skylands, the top-down adventure shooter pixel art game, still in early access, gets a new patch, bringing endgame raids. Now, this isn't like World of Warcraft raiding, but it's still very cool. Raids are basically a sequence of events played in or near endgame. It starts off with an aerial phase, and then once that's over, you take it to the ground level and fight it out over there. Add challenges to increase the difficulty and gather special resources that lets you craft a new weapon, the Swarm machine gun. That should be incentive enough to participate and slay some bandits and aliens, which is what you do in this game. I can recommend this one, by the way, it is a lot of fun. Then releases, looking back at what released last week. Starship Troopers Terran Command for €25, the tactical video game where you take control of the mobile infantry, killing a bunch of bugs. You normally don't want to encounter bugs in games, but in this case Steam users don't mind, rating the game an 85%. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge is a remake or homage to the turtle games of old. It is available on Game Pass or for $22.99 on Steam. That is 2 months on Game Pass, by the way. The turtles certainly earned their pizza slices with a 92% user rating. Frozenheim is a serene Norse city builder with elaborate management gameplay and RTS tactical combat, or at least that's what the devs said. Steam users point out this isn't a city builder at all. It is full of bugs, the wrong kind, and recent review scores are sitting at 67%. Not a great launch after the early access period. Dungeons of Idera is a roguelite action RPG dungeon crawler featuring procedurally generated levels where you will battle through hordes of monsters to restore Idera to its former glory. Recent reviews, after leaving early access, sit at 61%, with users being unhappy about the lack of procedural generation and the overall clunkiness, as well as the idea this isn't really a finished game. The Hand of Merlin, another problematic release. This is a turn-based roguelite RPG in which Arthurian legend meets with sci-fi horror. This is the third game this week leaving early access and the third to not have a great launch, with a 51% recent user rating. Players cite bugs, crashes and lack of content as the main culprits here. Let's look ahead at what's releasing this week. Not a lot, but I did find one potentially interesting game, Anvil Saga. Anvil Saga is a management sim with RPG elements where you take control of a blacksmith shop amidst the 100 Years' War. I mean, that's a premise you don't hear every day. You can build a smithy, make decisions that influence the lives of the locals and warring factions, hone your own skills or hire henchmen to do the dirty work for you. The game launches in early access on June 21st. Also, Legend of Keepers releases their last DLC, Soul Smugglers, on June 20th. There is one new master, new enemies, new heroes, the whole shebang. This is a great strategy game, I recommend it. This week's sort of free games, because I'm Dutch and I'm cheap. Epic has Supraland until June 23rd. A mix between Portal, Zelda and Metroid. Explore, solve puzzles, beat up monsters, find secret upgrades and new abilities that help you reach new places. Game Pass put out Assassin's Creed Origins if you want to go out and explore Egypt. There's the Turtles game that I already talked about, and Omori, very indie, this game. Explore a strange world full of colorful friends and foes. Navigate through the vibrant and the mundane in order to uncover a forgotten past. When the time comes, the path you've chosen will determine your fate, and perhaps the fate of others as well, just so you know, ladies and gents. Time for some personal updates. What have I been up to? Well, I've been up to the Dublin Tech Summit in Dublin, as you might expect. Fun town to start with, had some Irish whiskey of course and some Guinness, but I also visited 2 days of talks about tech with interesting stories about quantum computing and the effects of that, how to secure your IT landscape, which is useful for me being an IT architect, inspiring sessions from the Cambridge Analytica whistleblower, once again indicating how messed up Facebook really is, or a look at how ransomware works, what the implications are and why it is so successful. That means I haven't played many games, but I did spend a significant part of the heatwave infested weekend here writing this script, so hopefully you enjoy it. And that's it. If you have any questions or remarks, put them in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did and you want more like this, consider liking the video or even subscribing. thanks for watching and making it to the end. Love you all. See you soon. Bye bye.